Ever wonder what it really takes to live to 100? I mean, forget all those clickbait headlines about the latest miracle diet or some trendy new workout. Today, we're going to dig deep into the hard data to find out the real and sometimes kind of shocking truths about who actually gets to celebrate that triple-digit birthday. Okay, first things first. Living to 100 isn't some far-off fantasy anymore. It's becoming a reality for more and more people. Just get a load of these numbers. Between 2010 and 2020, the number of Americans reaching age 100 shot up by 50%. Yeah, 50. This isn't some trend on the horizon. It is happening right now.
So that leads to the big question, right? Who are these people and what in the world is their secret? Well, we're about to comb through decades of data from some absolutely massive studies to find out. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around because some of the answers are definitely not what you'd expect.
So where do we start our search? Well, our first clue doesn't come from a diet plan or a gym membership. It comes from your zip code. Yeah, you heard that right. It turns out where you live might have a much bigger impact on your lifespan than you'd think, and a huge study from Washington State gives us the data to prove it.
To get to the bottom of this, researchers in Washington analyzed nearly 145,000 death certificates. But here's the cool part. They weren't just looking at the individuals. They were zooming out and looking at the communities where these people lived, hunting for clues in the environment that might lead to a longer life.
And what they found was pretty fascinating. Your odds of reaching 100 were higher if you lived in a neighborhood that was more walkable, had a higher socioeconomic status, and, get this, a larger population of working-age people. The big takeaway here? It's not just about you, it's about the whole community around you.
Let's just break down that idea of walkability for a second. This isn't just about having nice sidewalks. It means you can easily walk to shops, to the doctor, to see people, all without needing to get in a car. For older adults, this is an absolute game changer. It encourages physical activity and helps them stay independent, and really importantly, socially connected.
Okay, so your environment really matters. That's clear. But what about personal habits and your family history? To answer that, we're going to head over to Hawaii and look at the Kuakini Honolulu Heart Program. This was a landmark study that followed a group of Japanese-American men for almost 60 years, giving us this incredible window into health and longevity. Now, the Hawaii study confirmed some things you'd probably expect. Things like avoiding smoking and heavy drinking are good for you, duh. But it also dug up some really cool clues. It turns out having a dad who lived a long time was a pretty good sign. Also, staying sharp mentally and physically was crucial. And on a genetic level, many of the longest living men carried a protective gene called FOXO3. But, maybe one of the most powerful findings was all about social support. As this data shows, the men who lived into their 90s and beyond consistently had stronger connections with their family and friends than the men who died younger. The message couldn't be clearer. Staying connected is absolutely critical.
All right, we've covered your neighborhood and your habits. Now let's get to the really surprising part, because the data is about to completely bust some of the biggest myths you've probably heard about what it takes to live a long life.
Let's start with a big one. For decades, we've all heard about the marriage protection effect, the idea that being married is healthier and helps you live longer. It makes sense, right? But is it actually true for the people who live the longest?
You might want to sit down for this one. The data is stunning. The Washington study found the complete opposite of what we'd expect. Compared to their married friends, widowed individuals were nearly 10 times more likely to reach 100. People who never married were over 6 times more likely, and even divorced folks were more than twice as likely. One theory for this is that it might reflect avoiding long-term marital stress, or maybe that people who became single earlier in life just had more time to build resilience and adapt.
Okay, how about we tackle another sacred cow? We always assume that more education leads to a better job, more resources, and therefore a longer life. But does that idea hold up when we're talking about making it all the way to 100?
Well, the answer, amazingly, is no. And this wasn't just a fluke in one study. The Hawaii study found education had zero bearing on survival past age 70. And the Washington study, it went even further and found a negative link. People with diplomas were actually less likely to reach 100. So why? Researchers think that by the time you get to that extreme old age, the raw forces of biological aging just kind of overpower the social advantages that came with education. So what do we do with all this information? Some of these factors make perfect sense, while others just turn our assumptions completely upside down. It's really clear that the path to 100 isn't a straight line. It's like a complex puzzle with a ton of different pieces.
Now, a key piece of that puzzle is, of course, genetics. But
And this is a huge but. Genes aren't destiny, not by a long shot. As this quote points out, the heritability of aging is only estimated to be about 20 to 35%. Just think about what that means. A massive 65 to 80% of the whole equation is influenced by other factors, many of which we've just been talking about. So we can start to piece together a kind of longevity equation. It seems to start with a little dash of genetic luck. To that, you add a really supportive environment. Then, you mix in strong social connections, and you top it all off with some healthy personal habits. No single one of these things is enough on its own. It's the combination that truly counts.
So I guess the ultimate takeaway is this. There is no single magic bullet. There's no one secret. Reaching 100 is about this incredibly complex interplay between where we live, who we know, how we live our day-to-day lives, and yeah, the genetic hand we were dealt at the start. And all of this leads to one final, really provocative question. We've uncovered so much just by looking at the data we have now. So as science continues to unravel more and more secrets of aging, will reaching 100 stop being the exception and maybe become the rule? Could 100 actually become the new 80? Now that is a future that we're only just beginning to imagine.